5'7", holding a handgun, black in color, white shoes, blue jeans, red T-shirt, bald-headed.
A sunny day turned dark.
Where is he? Main office, right in the principal's office. We have visual from the front door.
Cummings Middle School, the scene of a deadly shooting.
Take him out. Take him out. Shots fired.
Two Brownsville police officers shot and killed 15-year-old Jaime Gonzalez.
Get EMS here. He appeared to be hit in the chest cavity or somewhere inside. It looks like I hit one to the back, officer.
Though the exact details of the shooting are still unclear, Brownsville police tell us the officer shot at the student after he pointed a weapon at him. He was transferred to Valley Baptist Medical Center in Brownsville, where he later passed away from his injuries.
With these types of weapons, they certainly convinced the personnel on scene that of its potential threat to them.
The two police officers shot at Gonzalez at least 3 times using their police-issued rifles. The numbers marked the spot where casings hit the ground.
Turned out to be what is a CO2 177 caliber pellet pistol.
As the investigation continues, Chief Orlando Rodriguez says the two officers remain on administrative leave.
La sangre de Cristo te limpia.
Meanwhile, these parents are relieved their children are back in their arms, safe.
Espero que todos los demás. Sí, de alegría de que salió bien mi hija.
But not every parent has a chance to hold their child. The life of 15-year-old Jaime Gonzalez ended. In the coming days, police will look into how and why. In Brownsville, Rafael Carranza, Action 4 News.
Papi Musk's role in the war, the famous Texas PowerGrid, Biden versus Abbott at the river, and is school safety a top priority? It is Friday, September the 8th, 7:10 a.m. My name is Frank Olivo, and this is Good Morning Brownsville. Of course, we love to start the show with our award-winning segment. Now, everyone makes fun of me and says, why are you doing the weather, bro? We know what it's going to be. It's going to be hot. It's going to be hot and humid. Well, today, unfortunately, is the same. The city of Brownsville will be looking at 99 degrees. Harlingen will be in the triple digits. South Padre Island is at a cool 87 degrees. There is a chance for scattered showers from Sunday to Wednesday. Low percentage at 20%. This weekend, there is a family event. Tippotex 3-Bat Productions, along with the city of Port Isabel and their cultural center, is inviting the community to the Lucha Libre by the Bay at the Port Isabel Event Center. For information on tickets, make sure you contact 956-455-9518. Lucha Libre has been a part of my upbringing. Wrestlers such as Octagon, La Parca, Rey Mysterio, Conan, Blue Demon, El Hijo del Santo, and many others. If you're available this weekend, make sure you take the family. It should be fun. PI, Lucha Libre by the Bay. Now, we have seen the stark contrast of administration. Papi Trump's administration had a hard stance on immigration compared to this current leadership that we have seen. And this issue with immigration isn't something that just that just happened, from one year to the next. This is something that we feel as if every administration has been the kicking the can down the road. But now, recently, as of late, you and I can agree that the United States does not have control over the southern border. And this is a battle that we have seen unfolded we living in Brownsville have seen how there have been many instances where the bridges have been closed. People from as far as Venezuela and Southern America have been coming in droves. We understand that it is in search of the American dream, and this is a humanitarian issue. President Abbott has been sending busloads of these individuals to New York, to Washington, D.C., and even to the outside the house of our vice president. This is in reaction to what he calls President Biden's lack of attention to our immigration crisis. We all agree that we need immigration reform. He has gone on the record to state that Biden is forcing migrant families to remain in Texas, and he continues with his agenda. Governor Abbott continues with his agenda that he will continue to send more migrants to Washington, D.C. His philosophy is that if the federal government does not want to deal with the situation and come to the border and give Texas the resources and the reform needed to combat immigration, well, we'll take immigration, the issue of immigration, to your doorstep. Governor Abbott has been criticized for his recent installation of these floating devices. This is to prevent individuals from crossing the Rio Grande River. And as we all know, within time, there will be ways for them to cross this with ease. But nonetheless, this has been installed throughout the Rio Grande River with the intention to deter or prevent individuals from crossing. And one thing that has been uproar. Many individuals have been saying, "Oh, this is inhumane. People will die." Governor Abbott is pretty much essentially killing individuals, putting individuals at risk by placing these harnesses or these floating devices in the middle of the river. Well, the federal government did recently favor in the with the Biden administration, who said that this was inhumane. But this is a back and forth issue. We just got word that the federal appeals court did say that the Texas floating barriers can remain in the Rio Grande for now. So this is a back and forth issue. Who's going to win, the state or the federal government? The federal government did hit the home run when a federal judge did say that it was unconstitutional, only to have an appellate court say the floating barriers could remain until now. What's got to give? It seems as if this is going to be a fight to the bitter end. Now, in consumer news, haven't you noticed that the issue of Tenasca is not at the forefront anymore? We're not seeing individuals talk about this issue. But one thing that you and I can agree is that the problem hasn't gone away. We have heard from numerous business owners, single family homes that say, is this ever going to end? I'm still seeing a large itemized invoice from PUB. Something's got to be wrong. What happened? We were supposed to see changes in our bill, but could we even believe PUB anymore? Do you have faith in our local government? Don't you feel as if this is a con that hasn't gone away? During the campaign trail, Mayor-elect John Cowan, one of his promises was that he was going to be lowering. He was going to be lowering the PUB bill. And everybody thought, oh, this is our candidate. He's going to give the people some slack in their pocketbooks. He understands our needs and our concerns. Now, we understand that it has only been 2-3 months that our mayor has been in office, but he has not publicly addressed this continuing issue of rising prices. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Brownsville, but that was one big old lie. Now, for an individual to state that he will personally guarantee that he will be working on lowering your PUB bill was a farce. How can we, the city of Brownsville, control the prices given to us by the Texas grid? This is an issue that is going to be occurring and is not going to stop. If you think that your electric bill is going to go down in the very near future, well, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona that I'd like to sell. Just recently, the PowerGrid in the state of Texas was threatening or considering blackouts in South Texas. The city of Brownsville has seen its fair share of broken promises from the Power Texas grid. There was an emergency a few days ago on Wednesday, and it stated that there was going to be a need for individuals to conserve their power, not to be turning on from certain times electricity to save consumption because of the ongoing heat, which drove the surge in power demand. That there was a possibility that South Texas, Brownsville, was going to see a blackout. This is an issue, ladies and gentlemen, that is not going to go away for the time being. The excessive heat. And Texas is the only state that owns its own power, controls its own power grid. So we got no one else to feed off of. We're on our own. So for the mayor, for the city of Brownsville to make this outlandish promise is disheartening. Many individuals who voted for him fell for it. Now, I'm not saying that the only reason why they voted for him was because of that broken promise of lowering our electric bill, but we expect our politicians to come through on their promises. As you all know, a broken promise will be remembered forever. Now, Papi Musk seems to be on Good Morning Brownsville every other show. My friends have said, why don't you change the title of your show already? Instead of Good Morning Brownsville, Good Morning Papi Musk. Well, he is a resident of the city of Brownsville. And as of late, more importantly, he has had a role in this current war. As we all know, for the past 2 years, Ukraine and Russia have been at odds over the Crimean territory, well, all of the territory of Ukraine, nonetheless. And what we have seen has been that many individuals have been questioning and saying, is the United States spending too much money in Ukraine? And who can forget, in every war, World War I, World War II, the U.S. has always had a role in some sort of fashion. This mirrors the Cold War back in the 50s and 60s, where the U.S. is trying to prevent the spread of communism, and they're helping other territories that are democratic in nature. This war is going on 2 years now in February, and it doesn't seem to stop. One would think that the United States would pressure, or NATO would pressure these two countries to come to some sort of peace agreement. Well, the individual that is trying to prevent this war from escalating is, you guessed it, our very own Papi Musk. Papi Musk recently, he let the world know that he himself de-escalated the war. Now, if you're not familiar with Starlink, Elon Musk has several companies that he operates. One of them, the famous ones, of course, is Tesla and SpaceX. But one of them is Starlink. Starlink is a mobile, portable internet provider service, and it provides coverage internet to rural areas. He was providing internet for Ukraine. He said that he wanted communication to remain. He did not want the country to not have that dialogue with the world, to not know what is going on. He recently stated, Elon Musk recently posted that he took part in de-escalating this war. He posted on X that there was an emergency request from government authorities, he's talking about NATO and Ukraine, to activate Starlink all the way to Sevastopol. The obvious intent being to sink most of the Russian fleet at anchor. If I had agreed with their request, then SpaceX would be explicitly complicit in a major act of war and conflict escalation. Now, I'm a history buff. When we see movies like the emergence of the American Revolution, we think of muskets, we think of large armies meeting at the battlegrounds in the middle and fighting it out. Well, war is not like that anymore. Technology, drones, modernized warfare has changed the landscape of that. We no longer meet at the middle. We send bombs, we send drones. The Ukraine was trying to use Starlink, their drones, to bomb ships. Elon Musk prevented World War III possibly. And can you imagine if he had a role in causing World War III? Just imagine what this world would look like if we entered into World War III. But nonetheless, Papi Musk de-escalated the war. Ukraine and NATO asked him to turn on the servers at Starlink. He knew that if he did, he would piss off Putin. So he essentially de-escalated the war. Now, for our feature story, we can all agree that we're living in different times. This youth has gotten worse. It seems as if we have copycats that are trying to outdo one another. We saw how Columbine High School, how that caused many copycats to arise. Who can forget Sandy Hook in Jersey, the school shooting at an elementary school? And while you're watching me today and probably getting ready for work, or possibly even driving your loved one, your child, to school, I want you to ask yourself, is school safety a top priority for you? Whenever you drop off your loved one, are you guaranteed that you will be able to pick them up safe and sound? Isn't that a worry that we have day in and day out? Are you confident? Are you confident that school officials are doing everything possible to make sure that your loved one returns? Is there a cost for peace of mind? We have seen, and we spoke about this previously, how we're starting to see this more often. Back in your day, possibly, you never heard of shootings at school. This has been something that's been occurring as of late. Just a few weeks ago, at the start of school, there was threats from Olmito, Brownsville, all the way to Edinburgh. Who can forget last year, BISD had a shooting at Porter, if I'm not mistaken, which caused everybody to panic. It is sad whenever our elected officials are trying to circumvent or trying to maneuver themselves from a law that was passed based on the tragic events of Uvalde, Texas. The school board did meet on September the 5th, and the issue that was brought up was House Bill number 3, an agenda item that was presented by our superintendent, stated to recommend approval for BISD to apply for the resolution to declare a good cause exemption for House Bill 3, Armed Security Officer requirement. Now, House Bill 3 was a law that was passed after the school shooting in Uvalde. And who could forget that tragic day? We have all seen videos of frantic parents being at the schools, wanting answers, questioning why the deputies, officers were not charging that building when they heard their loved ones, but there was a threat in their school. Is there a price for peace of mind? As a loved one, as a parent, what are your thoughts of a school board essentially saying, well, we want to have an exemption from House Bill 3? And House Bill 3 was a law that was passed that requires every school district to have one armed officer at every school. Now, I understand what you're thinking. You know, if you really think about it, BISD is a monster. At one point, there were 52 schools, and these past couple of years, there have been several schools that have shut down. So right now, we're probably looking at anywhere from 45 to 48 schools. The issue that was brought up was that the reason why the school board was going to be requesting this exemption was because of manpower and funds. Let me repeat that. Manpower and funds. BISD has one of the largest budgets from here to San Antonio. It is a $500 million budget. And the superintendent during this discussion stated that the reason why was because of lack of funds, lack of manpower. Now, we understand people don't want to work, it seems. It's difficult for individuals to hire competent, willing employees that want to work. We understand that. But whenever it comes to school safety, don't you think that this is something that is paramount? Isn't this something that should be at the forefront? And, we did hear all the board members say, oh, school safety is a top priority. School safety is a top priority. We heard from our BISD police chief who stated that he's in the process of hiring 2 to 5 more officers that will guarantee them to be at 100%, but there was a possibility that some officers might call in sick, and there's a possibility that not all schools would be covered, and if they're not able to cover them, they'll send somebody to fill in that role, but there might be a gap in time where an armed officer is not there. So we're asking for this exemption to not comply with state law. As a parent, how do you feel? Don't you think that school threats are something of the norm nowadays? Don't we feel as if we should do everything possible to make sure that whenever we drop off our kids, they'll be safe and sound? Are school threats going to go away anytime soon? Who could forget? BISD is not a stranger to this. We started today's segment with the Cummings Middle School shooting. And who could forget that tragic event? I know I can't. I was at the university. A few blocks from Cummings. There was a lockdown at the university. There was a school shooting at the middle school. And we in Brownsville, we haven't heard of that ever. But for us to feel as if that we should ask for an exemption so we don't have to comply with state law doesn't fly and shouldn't fly with you as a parent. Again, you are probably taking your loved one right now to school. And I want you to look for that armed officer. Doesn't that give you peace of mind? Doesn't that guarantee you that incidents such as Cummings won't happen again? And if they happen again, there'll be somebody there who will disarm and take down that subject so he won't be a threat to your child. They say, ladies and gentlemen, that actions speak louder than words. Well, according to the majority, they want to file for this exemption. Daniela Lopez Valdez, Denise Garza, Eddie Garcia, and Jessica Gonzalez are asking for this exemption while they tout and state that school safety is of the utmost priority. A wise man once said, actions speak louder than words. How do you feel for your school board to pretty much say, we want to get an exemption because we have no funds, there is lack of manpower? But wait, you are the biggest district south of San Antonio. Isn't there some sort of money that you can incentivize these officers to want to work? Why isn't there no funds? Why isn't there no incentive? School shootings are something of the norm, and they're not going to go away. For our school board to vote in favor of having an exemption just gives us a bad taste to even think about. BISD might have a possibility that they might not have an armed officer at the school. Whenever you drop off your loved one today, do you feel safe dropping them off? Are you guaranteed that they will have another life, another breath to live? How do you feel that your current school board is asking for the exemption? Are you okay with it? Does it bother you that our school board is pretty much saying that we want to have an exemption? Is there a cost for peace of mind? These individuals will be running in November next year. They'll be asking for your vote. You as a parent, are you satisfied with them not enforcing SB 3 bill that asks for an armed guard in every school? Are you okay with sending your loved one to a school that possibly might not have an armed guard because the school board didn't have the manpower, didn't have the funds to provide you one? And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. Biden versus Abbott at the river. A federal appeals court did stay of those floating barriers devices to remain. This is a battle that's gonna unfold right before our eyes. Who's gonna win? Abbott at the state level or Papi Biden at the federal? The famous PowerGrid. Our current mayor did make the promise on the campaign trail that he was going to lower our PUB bill. Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that was one big fat old lie. And everybody fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. There is no way that these prices will drop. The power grid of Texas is expensive. There is nothing that is going to change that. Papi Musk de-escalated the war with Ukraine and Russia. NATO asked Starlink to turn on their servers. That way they could bomb the Russian fleet. Elon said, no, if you bomb Russia, Russia's going to respond with nuclear weapons. Papi Musk de-escalated the war and possibly prevented us from entering World War III. And for our feature story, is school safety a top priority? Our school board recently voted 4-3 for an exemption to House Bill 3, which called for an armed officer at every school. Isn't there a price? Is there a price for peace of mind? Are you okay with sending your loved one to school knowing that there might not be an officer? Are school threats going away anytime soon? Who can forget the Cummings Middle School shooting when a tragic event of a 14, 15-year-old who took a gun to school, pointed it at officers, and ultimately met his fate? What would have happened if armed officers weren't present? Would he have shot in somebody? Would he have killed somebody? How do you feel about your local school officials asking for an exemption so BISD won't be forced to have an armed officer at every school? It is Friday, September the 8th, 7:40 a.m. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. Make sure you have a great weekend. Hope to see you here on Monday. God bless.